Hello and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. I'm Natalie MacDonald. Now, what connects Switzerland with the Baltic states? Here to discuss this further is Christoph Sievers of Sievers Development. Christoph, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for inviting me to your studio.
Now, the relationship between Switzerland and the Baltic states may not be the most obvious one for our viewers. Can you talk us through what led you to take a tour of the Baltic states?
Yes, first of all, there is a genuine tourist interest in Europe, Eastern Europe, as I have some descendancy from Eastern Germany. And second, I am in charge of an association that deals with the Lithuanian embassy in Bern. So they're actually our tenants. And I had quite a lot of contacts with these people. And so grew the interest to also know more about the whole region, not only from an economical, touristical, but an overall holistic point of view. And what I hope to develop there is a better knowledge of the region, what distinguishes these people one from another, and how they interrelate with each other after having been colonized or occupied for many years.
Let's start with the positives then. What are the current drivers of these economies? We've all witnessed Latvia power through its austerity program, for example.
All of them have a tremendous rebuilding effort to undertake. Having been occupied by the Soviet Union until the early 90s, the whole infrastructure as well as a lot of nature was destroyed. So there is a lot of road construction ongoing, there's rebuilding of historical sites, there is construction of the city, countryside, the ports, and there is, as a common denominator, also the tourism and tourist infrastructure. Besides that, they have modern agriculture, and they have, which I think is important, a transformation to take from a state-run economy, Eastern style, into a modern Western style type of economy and business. So to speak, there's a lot of outside influence also into these countries, whilst they do the most part of the effort, of the rebuild effort themselves.
And naturally, with all economies, there are still negatives. What are the current items playing on economic performance?
The negative part is certainly that they have had many almost traumatical experiences. So this makes them a little bit skeptical towards all sorts of development, be it economic, be it political. And there's still a lot of, so to speak, inhibition in the way forward. Let's take an example. In Lithuania, there's a lot of fear of the Polish, although they were together in one common empire at the time in Lithuania. And rather than concentrate on defensive moves against the Polish, they would try to integrate themselves with the Polish even more. Further, there is of course the smallness of the economies. They have a critical size. I mean, the biggest country is a little bit over 2 million, Lithuania. The smallest has barely 1 million, Estland. Further, and this is one of the key issues, there is a big emigration ongoing. So young people go to the West to work there and to earn more money than they earn at home. And last but not least, there is an increase in production cost and in social cost, because those who are there, they want to earn more. So to sum it up, there's a lot of challenging elements into development, not least coming from their own workplace and workforce, but also from the fact of rivalry with their neighbouring countries.
I would also love to know what level of economic competitiveness there is between the states themselves. And similarly, is the collective nature in which these countries are discussed, i.e. grouping them together, is that a mutually beneficial relationship, or are these economies looking to develop more independence from one another, do you think?
I think these are three questions actually in one, Natalie. I tried to go through them one by the other. First of all, the competitiveness between the countries. I think there is a lot of difference. Lithuania, for example, is from a Roman Catholic background. It used to be one of the prime economies or the prime political forces of the small forces in the Soviet Union. So they had some privileges, which led to a development of an economy very strongly centered on Russia. Estonia always had strong relationship with the Finnish neighbors, It was also established initially by the Danish and other people. So in other words, Estonia has always looked towards Scandinavia, and Latvia has been in the middle, so it has become the hub of all types of services nowadays, not only trade but also financial services. And now to integrate these three economies is quite a challenge, because there are also three different languages of three different origins. Not to speak about the Russian minorities, which are very strong in Latvia and Estland, and which have led to the situation that you have a large group of people that are not integrated into national, electional and other type of activities. Now when we look at the European Union, all of them try to be successful into the European Union, and they have to have a common ground there. NATO, European Union, they have to deal with together, jointly. And for example, all three state heads are yearly or bi-yearly invited by the American president, which shows that they need to act together. They couldn't act individually, being too small for that. So in all external political cooperation, but also in all macroeconomic issues, they have to work together. But when you then come to the individual economies, the local issues, the local needs, they have to work on their own. And there is, of course, competition for resource, for example. Finance is a dire need, and there's not as much finance available in the region, so they compete with each other for finance. So they are looking for more independence, still in issues like languages, in issues of internal priority, in access to finance, in different climatical and agricultural structures, and last but not least, in their cooperation and coexistence with their eastern neighbors. And this is probably the most different part, or the most difficult part for them to cope with. And when you take Lithuania as example, their neighbors are Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, three very difficult to deal with neighbors. And they have the unique chance on 28th, 29th November this year as a chairman nation of the EU to cope with the association of Ukraine into Europe. So there's a lot of challenges they deal with, they have to cope with. Maybe just one word on the role of Switzerland. Switzerland is very highly regarded because it has, from the first moment, supported the Baltic states. There have been historical relations back to the 20s and 30s. And last but not least, Switzerland has also given money in the cooperation effort to the European Union. We have invested 70 million in Lithuania, 60 million in Latvia and 40 million in Estland. So Switzerland has done a lot for them. It can help them to broker international relations, and they can help us to have better access to the European Union where there are factors of contention between ourselves and them. So I think there's a lot to do together and to live together with.
Christoph, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your thoughts on this matter.
Thank you, Natalie. It has been a pleasure for me, and I hope that both Switzerland and the Baltic states can do things together in the future.
Indeed. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye for now.